Welcome back, my friends, to episode 23 of Beyond Bricks and Mortar. Now, today I'm joined by friend and colleague, Tricia Lee. Now, in case you've been living on the moon for the last few weeks, Tricia, along with several of my colleagues, are going to be featured in Netflix's newest show, Owning Manhattan. Now, this show follows the journey of several of my powerful colleagues at Serhant, as well as the journey of really what it takes to really reach success in real estate. I'm thrilled and honored to have Tricia in the chair with me today for this one. She has an incredibly powerful and inspiring story. And this is a phenomenal episode for all you young real estate agents, as well as those considering getting into the business, but even more so, those considering getting into business with a partner or with a romantic partner. Several weeks ago, I met with Tricia's partner, Jeffrey St. Arromand, and we had a phenomenal conversation on the same topic. It's great to be able to get that perspective from Tricia and to see how she really approaches that entire dynamic. Find Tricia everywhere, online and on social media, but more importantly, look out for Tricia on June 28th at the premiere of Netflix's newest show, Owning Manhattan. As always, I'm very excited for you to listen and watch this one. If you are new here, welcome. New episodes of Beyond Bricks and Mortar are every single Wednesday, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe and all the buttons. You know what to do. And now, without any further ado, here she is, my friend and colleague, the powerful and the lovely Tricia Lee. I had such a great time with Jeff.
Oh, good.
And after we were done, I was like I have to get Tricia immediately.
I love that. No, he does really good with this stuff. Like, he's really good in interviews. But I thought that you and him interviewing together, like both of you have this like certain calm. And I was like, I could listen to you guys forever.
It's funny. I think you have a sense of calm to you.
I
Of course,
don't think so at all.
you have a very bright personality.
Oh, thank you.
But I find that you definitely give off calm. You know, like a calming spirit. Maybe that's because you and I don't know each other very well, and maybe that's the first impression. But I felt that way. Like when we first met at 200 Amsterdam, you know, like you were like very engaged, calm.
Yeah.
You know.
I definitely like kind of, I mean, I think I have a bright personality, but I definitely kind of just sit in the cut most of the time. I'm like, because I usually think most people are crazy. So I'm just kind of like, let's see what crazy thing they're going to do today.
So you're like observing and learning in the
Trying,
moment.
you know, and then I think in that space, like if I'm walking in to see you at Amsterdam, like I've done my thing in my business, but there's so much for me to learn. So there's not a lot I have to say. I want to learn from you. I want to be in that space with you. And I want to understand, like, what are you doing differently to acquire that type of business and to sell it successfully?
Yeah. Well, that's a really great mindset because you are a seasoned professional, but you're operating under the pretext that you're never really enlightened. You know, like we're never fully enlightened, right? There's always more we can learn and understand and comprehend. So I think you see a lot of people in our business and in a lot of different contexts, they reach a certain point in their career and it's like, I know everything.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that's when like the irrelevance starts to creep in and, you know, slowly make its way to certainty.
Yeah, and I grow bored. So what I love about being at this brokerage is I never feel that way. I always feel like, well, I feel like every time I meet someone, they have such an interesting story. Like everyone has such a crazy story. And then I also feel like in spaces like where you and I met, I was like, okay, what can I learn from this guy? Like, and just listening to how you do what you do. Assessing if I do it the same, assessing if I like the way you do it better, assessing what you highlight, what you don't highlight, what you hold back on, wait for questions. Like it's just like, it's like a classroom.
Yeah, you know? I like that. Well, you're very observing. Yeah.
When I feel like I can learn, and when I don't, I'm not. I'm very checked out. You know, it's like it's hot and cold. But yeah, when I feel like I can learn, I'm all the way in.
I love that.
For sure.
I love that. All right. Well, I did do a good deal of research for this, and here's kind of like the broad strokes of what I've learned about you. You know, you and I don't know each other very well. I think this is the second or third conversation we've ever had. So I kind of love that, you know, like using this as a forum to get to know each other and build a good, you know, relationship between us as colleagues. And I genuinely felt that my connection with many people after sitting down on this podcast has really gotten better.
I bet.
Which I really like. It's like very fulfilling element for me because I think one of the buckets we're always trying to fill in our business is the relationship we have with our peers, with our colleagues. And I recently heard Ryan say that, you know, clients come and go, but the relationships you have with your colleagues, with other real estate agents, like that's the thing that really lasts forever.
Right.
Because listen, there's a generally a small community of us that see each other on the other side of deal sheets. Like,
Right.
it's a very big business, but a small community of us that are like really active in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you don't have good relations with people on the other side of the deal sheet, your business is in trouble.
Yeah, very limited.
You know, so it's like, of course, it's very fulfilling for me to do this, but it's also, I consider it to be very important.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So I guess that's like the mission I have going into. But back to you. Here's what I learned about you. You are a person who has made your mark on New York City, Brooklyn in particular. You are a born and bred entrepreneur, having lived a previous life owning multiple local businesses. Mm-hmm. You're a community leader, stitched into the fabric of neighborhoods like Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Prospect Heights, Dumbo. And you live the life of a full-time real estate agent, selling homes across New York City, as a whole, continuing to give back to your community, and still seemingly learning how and where to make an impact in whatever you do.
Right.
How would you describe the timeline of your life?
The timeline of my life? How would I describe the timeline of my life?
You sure you don't want to drink?
I know, right? Did I say I didn't want to drink? I
You
didn't
did.
say it when we
You
were
did.
recording, so I don't think it counts.
I don't think you were yourself when you said that.
I want 2 shots. No. The timeline of my life, it's interesting. I think that I'm all the things you just described, and I think the story as to why I'm those things is a story of feeling very like other and very different and very maybe even not welcomed at times. Mm-hmm. And so when that is your history, I think the nurturing, calm feelings that I may create is wanting people to feel what I did not feel in the past. So I want people to feel comfortable in the most uncomfortable places, and I want people to feel seen, and I think I want people to understand that I'm a fighter. And I hope I'm a pretty fighter, but I'm a fighter.
You look amazing.
But I'm a fighter. I've always had to be a fighter my whole life and never wanted to be a victim. So I think that's like that, like fire in the pit of my belly. And that's where like all things that are good and sometimes bad come from, but I think it's like my life story is just so crazy. It could never be summed up in a podcast or in any interview. But it is definitely one of intention. And I think I've always thought that there was something better for me. And I've always truly believed that I deserved the best. I've always felt that. So I think a lot of what I work for and fight for and believe in and highlight is the pride around that. Like I picked this up from one of my agents like 5 or 6 years ago, but it's the saying, nothing but the best for T. Lee. And
nothing but the best for T. Lee.
Nothing but the best for T. Lee. Yeah.
I love that. I'm so happy I asked you this question because I feel like you've just kind of revealed to me the ethos of your approach with the work.
Yeah.
And it's so great how I'm sure you went through a lot. And like you say, you can't sum it up in one podcast, right? But it's so great that gets to be the influence that empowers you. Mm-hmm. You said, I want people to feel seen. Mm-hmm. And you had difficulty with that, in your upbringing or whatever the story is, the context in the story is. So it's nice to see that that's what you want to deploy in the work. You're not really in the real estate business as much as you're in the hospitality business, really taking care of people.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
That's really great.
For sure. And I think a lot of people, when you experience those feelings of feeling like an outsider, you can believe that, or you can get on the inside and change the way things work, and you can change the perception. And so for me, I think it's like, if I do really good in this way, that way, this way, I get closer to the middle, I get closer to the center, I get closer to the room. And once I'm in the room, I get control, or I have a say, and then I can help. And I can help more people to get in the room, and I can help more people to be a part of the conversation, or I can at least tell people what we talk about in that room.
Yeah.
And so it's healing me first, let's say selfishly, right? But then it also, I think it just makes an impact in any way that possible. So in any work that I'm doing, I just naturally think about my community because it's a community of other. It's a community of not forgotten, I wouldn't say, but it's just a harder road. It's just a harder road for us and always has been.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's something I really love about our business is that it becomes really a vehicle for the thing that moves us.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I talk about this a lot, you know, that's how I try to inspire my team to fall in love with the work, is to do it, use it as a vehicle for what you really love, for the thing you're passionate about.
It connects you to it, right?
Yes.
It allows, if you do the work and you do really great work, it leads you to the opportunities to make an impact and change wherever you feel you want.
And that's what you're really after.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, and that's what makes you successful. You can't get into this business for the money. Like, the money becomes a byproduct of the success.
There's not enough of it. There'll never be enough.
No, right? So you can only really enter this business and stay in it if you put in the work to fall in love with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you what drew you to real estate to begin with, but I'll skip that because I kind of know the answer to that question now. But do you think that the fact that you had such a great local network, did that contribute to your business, to your decision to jump into this business in particular? Because it sounds like you built quite a name for yourself already in the landscape there.
Yeah. I think I always say I built a business on top of another business. And early in real estate, I felt like a lot of people around me were maybe judgmental about the success I was having. And, you know, sometimes when you have very fast success, it becomes, people feel the need to remind you it's not always like that. It's not always going to be good like that. Like, you know, you're just having a lucky streak. It's like, you know, it's almost like having a first song come out and it's like
Way
a
to
huge
rain
hit.
on the parade.
You know, and so everyone's let you know, like, okay, your second album's not going to do that well, you know?
Ugh, I can't stand
I
that.
felt a lot of that when I first started. And because I became like a lot of my, and what I never really share, a lot of my clients became my competitors. Because, I mean, I had these businesses in downtown Brooklyn. I serviced a lot of agents, you know, and serviced them well. And then I all of a sudden was pitching against them.
Wow.
So, but that business and that beauty business and that visibility was something that I hated about that business. I just wanted to do the business. I didn't want to have to talk to anybody. I didn't want to have to be known. I didn't have myself on my own website for many years.
Are you an introverted person?
I'm both, you know, because I do extrovert very well.
Yeah.
So you would think I prefer it, but no, I prefer me. I prefer me and,
I feel like
and
I'm
me
kind
alone.
of the same. I'm kind of the same.
You know
I
what I
don't
mean?
like, you know, if I'm at like a wedding or a large
You're gonna
event,
do it.
I'm pretty like, I'm like, I feel more introverted in that context. In this context, I feel more extroverted, like, you know, outward. But
I can do public. I can speak in front of 5,000 people. I can be at a table with 5 people, but I spend a lot of time alone. I do alone really well. I think I do it better than most people I know. But that doesn't mean I haven't had to figure out how to do the extrovert part really well either. Because it's like it was a part of my first business in such a way that I didn't understand. But I think that's when we were first building brand identities around the founders and the owners. And so no one really cared too much about what I did. They cared about who I was. And I fought against it for so long. And then I realized I couldn't be successful without sharing who I was a little bit.
You got to lean into that.
I had to. And I leaned all the way in. Once I figure out the rules, I follow the rules, love a rule. And so when I started doing that, that allowed that business to do so much better. It allowed me to meet all these clients. And it just so happened that I was servicing, you know, the women of Prospect Heights, Clinton Hill, Fort Greene, Bed-Stuy, you know, downtown Brooklyn. And that was the foundation I built my real estate business on, those relationships, that reputation, that work ethic, you know, that approach. And when I had to start marketing properties, it wasn't any different for me than marketing beauty services in my first brand.
Yeah, it's just about telling a story.
Yeah, and the marketing is what I truly enjoy the most out of all of it. So
like the visual elements of it all.
Just getting creative and trying to get you excited about what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's fun for me. That's not really so much work for me. I enjoy it.
Me too. It's the part of the job I love the most. It's always
Really?
been like curating a listing,
Yeah,
from the beginning, coming up with the vision, telling the story, that's like the part that I really lean into so heavily.
Yeah, like
'Cause
I
I-
could just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like I just do that. The rest, after you reach a certain point, the rest becomes a fluid motion.
Mm-hmm.
But every time you take on a new listing, it tells a story, tells a different story. And
Yeah.
it's your chance to like do something new each time.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies to really the communication that you have with the client, because especially in New York, there are so many types of personalities, races, creeds, religions, people, so many demographics, which is kind of the beauty of the business, because you can be literally anybody and you can have a demographic in New York to sell
You'll build your
homes to.
audience. It doesn't matter who you are and what you're into. You'll find them. Your tribe
Exactly.
will find you. You'll find your tribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you this, because you touched on this. This is actually the same question I asked Mallory Bogart.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a few powerful women in the chair. You are certainly one of them. So my question to you is this: historically, when you look back at our business, a great percentage, in fact, a majority percentage of the industry's most successful residential real estate people are women. There's a lot of examples I could give, but it's quite clear that women have built a predominant success in this field.
Correct.
So my question for you is, why do you think that is? What do you think gives women a unique advantage in our business?
Well, I think first I would say we are very detail oriented by nature, and we're the best multitaskers there's ever been.
Well, the detail part is so important.
Yeah. Like we are, and we are accustomed to managing and paying attention to 5 and 6 and 7 things at a time that are all equally important, right? So I think that that's probably the one reason why women do so well, because no matter what part of these transactions you're on, there's just so many moving parts. You said it yourself, so many personalities. But then we get into a deal and it's the broker and their team, and it's the buyer and their partner and their lawyer and our lawyer. So now you got 7, 8 personalities you're trying to get to the finish line with, right? So I think that that's just something that, like, and maybe it's just me and maybe all the women that I have access to, but innately we're curators. Innately we are choreographers. Like, I have a vision for everything. I've already rearranged your desk in my mind.
Really?
Like, it's just
please,
you come in
share.
and you're like, what would I do differently? You know what I mean?
Please share. We can get into that. I take feedback.
I was going to set your bar up on that side. No.
By the way, so in the first episode, I set the bar up on that side.
How did it go?
The problem is that the camera's also on this side. So
it looks like we're just
in that,
drinking. Okay.
well, in that first episode, because listen, the bar's in the frame a little bit. But in that first episode, the camera focused on the ice bucket, and I was blurry for like 30 minutes. It's like, okay, it's like the first one, I'm, getting adjusted here. But yeah, I had no choice. I would love to put this like on a cart close by, but I'm running out of space.
We'll have to get you a
here.
cart. We'll have to get you a little slim little cart that goes like maybe right here, right there.
In the next office, I will do that.
But I'll mind my business for now.
I like this type of feedback. I want to make the set better. I always want to make the set better.
It's just my nature.
Yeah.
I do makeovers on everything. It's just what I do.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think that also one thing I've noticed is that women are generally more empathetic than men also.
Oh, for sure.
They can calibrate to people a bit easier in that context. So
I feel like almost automatically sometimes.
Yeah.
I find my energy follows, wherever it needs to.
Right.
To keep things moving along smoothly.
I think that's the same I could say about my wife. Like, I noticed that she can talk to anyone and she can help them, feel comfortable in a conversation. And I think that just comes with a natural level of empathy. It's like people feel the need to tell her their problems.
Your wife sounds like me. That is, I would say every friend of mine would be like, what is it about you? And I'm like, I was just sitting here minding my business. I don't know what happened. And then they're like, no, that's not what you do. You actually ask all these questions, and then you want to give different feedback. And then next thing you know, it's turned into a session and we have to go. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
We should double. I think we'd have a fun time if we doubled. That would be great.
But I think it's all those things. I definitely think it's being empathetic and just, being able to just keep track of everything and so many different things and prioritize. And I always just feel like I'm a maestro. I just feel like that's what the job is, and all the different personalities. When you get a partner, like I've been fortunate enough to have in Jeff in the business, then it's just like, who's going to tackle what, and it takes time for us to figure out who has different strengths and what they are. Cause we'd worked in the business for years, but we'd never worked together until recently. So once I realized that he liked to do the things I didn't like to do, I was like, oh, this is perfect.
This works. Yeah.
You run with that and I'll be over here, and he's a good partner because he's such a hard worker.
Yeah. You could tell he's a very hard worker.
Yeah.
I'm very fond of him.
He loves to work. It is like, I have never heard that man complain about work.
He hustles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And prefers it.
Love that.
Yeah. Like, it's always an argument in our house to go on vacation. Always an argument.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I find that that's also what makes Ryan a great leader. He's motivating by his actions because he's kind of an anomaly. Mm-hmm. No one really works like that. He's insane, So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize that wherever we are in this moment in time, or however the struggle builds up to push even further, you realize that it's all heart. Mm-hmm. It's all heart.
It really is.
You just have to keep moving, keep pushing.
And fail faster and get over things much quicker.
Yeah, and that's what builds courage. And courage is just so important in our business because every day we're having difficult conversations. We're approaching people in a context that's very emotional, which means we have to be ready to put out a fire.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
About that drink. No.
Would you like one? You tell me when you want.
I definitely will. I do not hold back. So I will, but no, I'm good.
So I mentioned this before, but you do seem to provide a sense of calm. I'm sure that ties in with empathy. Not reserved, but calm. How do you deploy that in your interactions with clients? Because I find, being able to keep a client calm is important. Mm-hmm. But I'll ask you, how important is calmness?
I think it's gotten more important in the last few years.
That's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
It really has. It's changed, hasn't it? Doesn't it
so
feel
important.
like aggressive has become a little bit less important?
Yeah.
And calm has,
Calm is the key. Like, I always say that, this entire transaction or experience is going to be a roller coaster, and you can choose to get on it and go take the ride or not. But either way, I'm going to be here with you when it's done. I'm not taking the ride though. I'm not going all the way up there and I'm not doing all that. And so I try to, in those moments that are heated or tense, I just try to remind myself, don't get on the ride. I'm at the theme park and this is a great experience, but I'm not getting on the roller coaster because it doesn't help. It doesn't benefit anybody to let something take you that high. Yeah. Or for God forbid, let it drop you that low.
Yeah. And not just the deal, but just the job.
The job, the situation, the drama of the day, of the moment, of the hour, of the minute. It's just never worth it, And especially because maybe this is my experience, but 90% of the time it works out perfectly as it needs to. And I'm always like, well, why not waste all that time, So in the last few years, and maybe the pandemic had a lot to do with that, but I just try to stay the course. I just try to stay the course. And if you all want to get on the roller coaster, I'll be here with you. I'll be here for you when you get back.
Right.
I'm right here and we're all leaving together, but I am not getting on that ride. It is exhausting and it's not a good use of my energy. I mean, I can use that energy to be better rested, to have more clarity, to be able to think better, to solve better.
Okay. So using the roller coaster metaphor, how do you prevent the client from throwing up on the roller coaster?
Setting expectations. Letting her know what's going to happen, what's going to bump, what's going to hit first. And I say she a lot, but it's because I come from a beauty background and a lot of my clients are women. Everyone's like, why am I saying she? I'm like, because 95% of my clients are women.
That's okay. I feel like most guys would say he.
Okay, that's fair then. I didn't know that.
No, I feel like I would
always default to he?
Yeah, okay. I mean, without noticing.
Yeah, I always say she because accurate. But setting expectations.
Because it's accurate.
It's accurate. Like, all of my clients are women.
That was a little like dig right there.
It's accurate. But I would say just setting expectations, letting them know, like, you know a lot of times when you get into a real hard bind with a sale of any kind, it's usually someone didn't prepare the client.
Yeah.
Right.
That's also the same thing when like a listing expires.
Yeah.
Majority of the time, the sellers just felt like they weren't communicating enough with their broker. And like, it's like such a downfall. If you don't communicate with the client, then they end up just defaulting to making whatever happened your fault, you know? So you have to be so communicative and upfront about all of this.
And that comes with sharing good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, it comes with sharing what they need to hear, what they don't want to hear. So that's what I do. I try to set expectations and try to set realistic expectations. And even if we're going into this and disagreeing, I want to stand firm on what my point is. And then I want to work towards the goal, right? Yeah. But I think it's important to really over communicate and to really let people know from my experience, because that's what you're hiring my experience, right?
Yeah.
This is how I see this happening. This is how I think we can avoid it. This is how I feel like we'll do better. This is the 3 different strategies we have to choose from, and this is why I think B is the one. Versus just poorly communicating, not communicating at all, and having people feel unsupported. And, you know, like I always say, like I want my clients to feel like I'm driving, you know, like and they can trust me. They can take a nap. They can read a book.
Smooth ride.
You know what I mean? But I got you. I'm good. Yeah. But I think setting expectations is the biggest part of making sure that nobody freaks out. Because if you're managing your client and your deal properly, you know what's to come more times than not, I think.
Yes, I agree with that.
You know, I mean, at this point, we've done everything. Yeah. A lot.
And it takes courage to communicate appropriately. It does. A lot of us like are tempted to hold back certain details. But if you deliver them well and right. You know, it takes courage, but it feels so much better going through the process. Like you said, it clears the way for you to be able to see what's going to happen next. But if you're worried about what the reaction is first, then you cannot see.
See, that's what's interesting for me, because I feel like I've had the luxury of working with all these clients that I've known for 10 years and more, 15 years actually now. And so when I do work with someone that I don't know from my beauty background, all of those things aren't known. Like that's not their history with me. Like I'm working with a client that doesn't know me and doesn't necessarily have that faith in me and that trust. And that's been my biggest learning curve, I think, in the last 5 years, was growing my business into working with people outside of my network and having to understand what it's like to be effective when people don't fully just trust you, you know. But I have to earn that trust now. I have to start over. And I didn't have to do that initially. Like I just had people that were like, oh, well, obviously we're working with you, you know, like I had people text me like, oh, you're in real estate now. Okay, I'll have to hire my broker because. Right.
And you're right. It does take a certain amount of work, and to reach a certain point where people are giving you the keys in the room, you know, you really do reach that point. If you
I started there in my business, and I had to figure out the other way.
And that's interesting. Like you had people who trusted you.
Yeah.
Got it.
Absolutely.
But then you had to figure out how to do the job actually in that moment.
Yes. And it's like, but the trust is there, and it's a great thing. It's a very fortunate, but I definitely had a different type of learning challenge with that, because I didn't feel the need to prove myself, because I had worked for several years and didn't have to. And it was actually Jeff that was like, humble yourself. These people don't know you. Yeah. They don't know you from your former business. They don't know you from your reputation, and they don't know you from a can of paint. You got to start all over with these people every single time. Yeah. And if you want to grow the size of your business, you must figure this out. So I am learning maybe what I should have learned in my first year and my 5th year.
Yeah. I hear that.
You know, and I've had to I've had to really figure that out again at Serhant, because that changed my business as well.
Yeah.
So it's like every time I would get comfortable, I can't get comfortable.
Yeah, you have to keep evolving.
Yeah. And it's good. It's just a little bit backwards, but it's good, and I think that for me, it's really, really good, because I am a courageous person, and I am very bold, and I don't struggle with saying how I feel about things.
That's great.
Sometimes.
So it's about, it's great if you deliver it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you don't know people, you have to learn how to deliver differently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's
coming from a place of empathy.
Yes. Yeah.
Being with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And supporting them. But I'm reflective enough to know that where the work is and the work that I have to be working on. And so that's where I carve out time to read and learn and study and listen to podcasts and write affirmations or whatever it takes, but to figure out just a different way of doing things, because I'm a little weak in this area.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, was about not feeling that people owed you their trust.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you're sharing this. Because also, especially a lot of agents who just enter the business believe that they are entitled to trust.
Right.
Like, you're my uncle. Of course you should give me your apartment to sell.
Your biggest
Okay,
asset.
you're my nephew. I worked my ass off to buy this thing, and you don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, no matter how well connected you might be in the business, you can't expect that that's what's going to take you home.
No.
And
no matter how well connected you are in this business, you still have to hustle hard.
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
So let's change gears a little bit.
Sure.
I asked this question in some form to Jeff. I like speaking to couples in business. So I've actually spoken about this with Brandon and Mallory as well. It shows a side that you rarely really see, which is a partnership in business and in romance that really works. That there's a positive dynamic there that doesn't fall apart. What is it really like to work with a romantic partner or a spouse in business, in a business like ours?
I feel like I would have such a different response from anyone else, because I don't believe in it. I think you should separate your work from your life.
Well,
I 100% believe that.
That's the cliche, though. That's like what we're told to believe.
So I believe it.
You do believe it. So what advice would you give to me? Because my wife is considering getting into real estate.
So it's what I believe, and I still believe it, and I always say it. But, perhaps I think it's you have the right partner, and the things that you're drawn to that partner for are the things that matter most in a business partnership, right? Like, I trust Jeff. I always say this, but I trust him sometimes more than I trust myself, And then I admire his work ethic. I admire his willingness to always help people and not come from a very selfish place. Like, so the things that you're drawn to end up being these things that make them the perfect business partner. I could go on and get really mushy about it, because
Please.
It's what matters.
I'll make sure to send it to him.
He knows. But he's a hard worker. He's calm, and he is, people love to talk to him. I have a saying, everybody loves Jeff, right?
I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get
everybody
it.
loves Jeff. Yeah.
I think my conversation with Jeff was the longest I've had on this podcast.
Yeah,
I think
I'm sure.
we just talked and talked. We really loved it.
Yeah. I have people that will meet me and they're like, oh my God, you're amazing. And then they'll meet him. They're like, oh, wait, now hold on. I know I told you were amazing, but it's because I hadn't met Jeff. And I was like, I told you. So he's all those things, and he's a great partner, and he's really in tune with me, and like how he can support me and how he can help me, and it's never like you did this and I have to do that. It's just like he just shows up and he just helps. Like he's just always there, and so it works, but I don't believe in it. if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, on the heels of that, what advice would you give to someone looking to get into business with their spouse or just their partner? Mm-hmm. And the kicker to that question is, would your advice differ if it was to a man versus a woman?
No, because I think that what's important is to protect the life that you want while you're building the business. And I think that it's important to have boundaries. And in our home, I'm in charge of those boundaries. Like that is, because otherwise there'd be no boundaries. Oh my God, we'd have a computer instead of a television.
I feel the need to call him.
You can call him. This is nothing I won't say in front of him. So, you would just come Jeffrey, into our house and there'd just be laptops.
Who is the boss of your house?
I am. So I'm the person that's like, and it's not even ridiculous boundaries, but I have to be like, it's 10 o'clock. We can't talk about work anymore.
No more pillow talk about real estate.
We can't talk about work anymore, So, or like the one rule we have is we take off Saturday. And so it's like, we're not allowed to, so.
That's good.
And we're not there yet, but at least it's, okay, I know we're not supposed to talk about work, but whatever,
You're warming up.
Yeah. Now I don't talk about work. I can shut down completely. The same way I can go very hard, I can also stop.
Yeah.
Hard. I'm just that's my personality. All the way in, completely checked out. But boundaries are important because I just always feel like I don't want our business to overtake our life. And I'm at a point in my life that I'm super clear about what supports the other, right? And so I'm building my life, and my business is a part of that. It's not the other way around. Not for me. And I will stand on that forever.
That's good.
And I believe you can be successful and still work really hard to protect having a really great life.
Sure.
And I also think that a part of the girl boss energy doesn't allow space for that, and I feel like, no, I'm a boss regardless of what anyone thinks. What I mean? I was a boss when I was born. I've always been a boss. No one would tell you anything differently, but I also really want to protect a life and build a great life. And so I want to make sure that there's intention and time put into that as well, so that I'm working really hard in my business for that life. For that life, not for the business. You know what I mean? I show up and I do what I need to do, and I go beyond and I go above and beyond in any way that I need to, because this supports that. And that's super important to me. And that doesn't have to be everyone's story, but I'm clear on mine.
Protect the life you want to live.
That's it.
That's good. That's
But
really
this is
solid
my
advice.
third career. This is my second business. And this was a business born out of having no life and having a successful business. And I was like, okay, if it's going to require all of me, then I have to literally clean the slate and start over. And that's what I did. So when I came into real estate, I've been very clear, because it's like I did it wrong already. So I don't need to learn from anyone. I already learned. That's not what I want. I worked every single day, and I was the picture of success in that world. Miserable.
Miserable. Is that the picture of success?
Miserable, missed my friends, missed my family, and missed my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you got to put all that down for a little while.
Yeah. But I think at that point I had built a business that just required so much of me, or maybe I didn't know how to pull back from it. So this business I've intentionally built in just a different way, where it does still require a great deal of me, but I'm able to delegate a lot of the things that I have to do daily and hourly, and I'm able to carve out time in the year, month, or day that's just mine and mine alone.
How many people are on your team?
It's me and Jeff that are the full-time brokers, and then we both have agents that work under us that support us in everything that we do individually. So 4.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And would you consider yourself a strong leader?
A strong leader? Would I consider myself a strong leader? I don't know if I would.
Well, then let me ask you this. What do you believe are the qualities that make a strong leader?
I think the ability to respond and react and figure things out quickly and surely, really being clear, just knowing what makes sense. I think that like when things come up, it's like being solutions oriented and
not coming down on people
and not getting frozen on things, but just being like, okay, so then like what is the best way out now, or the best solution now? So I think it's that, and I think that comes with time and experience, more than anything, like figuring out how to solve, because I feel like our jobs are problem solvers. Like literally for the longest time, that's what I had as my title, like problem solver, because that's kind of like, that's the truth of what we do all day long, is to solve different problems, really. So I think it's being able to just adapt and change and figure things out wherever you are right away and quickly and confidently, and not a false confidence because you act confident, but a confidence because you kind of been around the block and you know how things work, and you know that what's best, and you know that we're going to go left here and then we're going to go right here, and this is how it's going to end up. And then I think that people just naturally gravitate towards you because they trust that and they've seen it. I think another thing is just accepting people for who and what they are and where they are. And so whatever that is, it's like, what are the strengths there, from those experiences and that background, like what strengths lie there that can help us all get to the goal. Like, I don't really care too much about what each person is contributing, just that we have everything that we need. You know?
I like that.
Because sometimes I don't have that much to contribute in certain situations, you know? Right. I mean, like, in general, my business,
you work as a unit. You work as one.
But there are times I've walked into rooms that were my meetings, and I've said 3 things, and Jeff has taken over the whole meeting. I don't care.
Yeah, sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Like, as long as we're winning and we're winning for our clients, I think that's all that matters. So I think it's really being flexible and being quick to solve, and just finding strengths in every situation, in every person, like I've never had the luxury of working on a large team and learning how they operate in that way. Like I was a solo agent and then I started working with Jeff. Yeah. So there are probably like a lot of blind spots for me because I've never like joined a top performing team, and I've worked by myself from the beginning. But what I have done is run operating businesses and serviced, hundreds of clients every day in multiple areas at one time. So I take what I have to give and I give it to the business, and that's all I expect of anyone else. Like based on what you can give and what you're the best at, I just make your contribution, And so we all contribute in different ways.
I think that's a really smart approach because, it's quite easy to try and mold an agent into whatever you think is the right way to do the job.
Yeah. Or your way.
Yeah.
Right?
But everyone has their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, like you said, being able to fulfill whatever the commitment is, the responsibility, and to do it in whatever way is befitting of them, of their personality. And it's a very personal business, our business. So it's good to nourish whatever the qualities are of the person you're working with. Obviously, you don't want them to be deranged.
Right.
But
it's not good.
Yeah. But
unless it is.
If you're working with a good person, who has their way and has their specifics and their personality, their strengths are what's going to bring them home.
And I've seen it work for me in everything that I do. I mean, I have a deal in contract right now, and about 2 weeks into working with the client, I just realized that they found my agent to be better to talk to, easier to talk to, and
than you?
Yeah. I mean, he never said that, but I could tell that she was more effective than I was. I just kind of like took 3 steps back.
Sometimes, I mean, we all have like ideal people we would, like ideal demographics, or ideal clients.
Yeah.
And there are some that we just don't connect that well with.
And I was like, oh, he likes you better. Which is still a win for me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
why not?
By all means. And then it empowers her. And I know that while I am taking a step back and grateful that she's there, I know that that gives her a certain strength, right? And so in that next, and like we literally listed the apartment next door, right? And I saw a change that quickly in that very next transaction, because that whatever that confidence boost was for her, for me to come to her and say, hey, I think you work better with this client, and these are the reasons why I think this. And I don't have any ego about it. I appreciate it, but I just need you to do this, 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 this. And so she runs with it. And then the very next unit when we listed next door, she owned that transaction in a way that she hadn't taken ownership of anything before. And it was like, look at that one little change, you know?
Well, what you did was you empowered her and gave her confidence. You instilled her with courage by being trusting in her.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
And also like vulnerable to say like, I'm just not doing it. Like right. I know when I'm effective, I'm just not effective right now.
Yeah. So it takes vulnerability and courage. And in the end, what it does is it empowers your team member to level up, you know?
Very much so.
That's a huge one. And that really does empower them.
Yeah.
And that having that boost in confidence will certainly make them more effective on the next transaction.
Of course.
You know,
and I love, like, if I'm going to lose to anybody, I want to lose to somebody on my team. So it's like, I don't think he likes me, but I think he likes you, and we can still do this really well.
That's it.
You know?
Get it done.
And it was great, and we're good. You know, we've got a closing date scheduled now and everything. So,
I love that.
Yeah. And I also know that that's growth for me, you know, to be in a position where my agents are getting stronger and feeling more independent.
Yes.
And able to work without me, you know, and that's the goal is for them to feel comfortable doing everything that we've done together, you know. And I work with pretty junior agents, so it takes time.
Me too. I actually prefer to take on new agents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I draw a lot of fulfillment from mentorship, and
okay.
I like to try and take a professor type approach
Nice.
to the work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like working with new agents.
See, I would not have guessed that.
Really?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have felt that like you would have had like a 5-year minimum or something like that.
No, I think that I'm trying to create retention.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to build a force that stays with me for a long time. You know, like a group of individuals that trust each other,
mm-hmm.
that support each other. I don't see these people as like, I think I look at my responsibility as
mm-hmm.
a leader.
Right.
And my responsibility is to accelerate their success.
Right.
You know, I think the biggest mistake I made coming into the business was not joining a team. So I let myself linger for a couple of years, and I really slowed down my trajectory. And I said no to opportunities of like co-listing with really big agents mm-hmm. on certain properties, things that all would have propelled me to my success a little bit faster. Now, I regret nothing mm-hmm. because I'm very, you know, I'm very thankful and grateful for where I am at this moment in time. Mm-hmm. But if I had to go back and do one thing differently, that's the one thing I would do.
I think I would say the same. And I don't know. Well, I know why. I tried to do it that way. I tried to be on a team initially, and it was a client of mine, and I joined their team, and like, you know, a couple days in, I was like, oh, they're not trying to do what I'm trying to do. It just wasn't the right team.
It's hard because we do come in stubborn about our own vision. Yeah. So we have to be willing to learn another way. So
I just was. It wasn't the right team. Luckily, my sales manager at that firm, his wife, was like one of my top customers. And then my number one customer was a woman that was like a vice president at Corcoran. So the minute I made like an announcement that I was even in the business, clients were like, what is going on? Why are you not working with me? Oh, my goodness. And so my sales manager was like, look, I know what you've done in Brooklyn. I know your brand, and I know you're brand new to this, but you don't need to be on anybody's team. You need to do this on your own. And he was right. You know, like I was outperforming that team within my first 6 months. And I sold a ton of houses my first year, and, you know, and set records, and
that's
great. Had a great year.
That wasn't the case for me.
No.
I didn't sell a lot in my first 2 years. I rented a bunch, mm-hmm. but yeah, I think that I would have sold more if I had a bit more personal guidance and mentorship in that context. I think that's part of the reason why I love it. Like you touched on wanting to give the client something that you didn't have, mm-hmm. that you struggled with. Mm-hmm. You know, I want to give to my team in a similar fashion, like the education in real estate that I didn't quite have.
Mentorship.
Yeah. And
guidance.
I really, really love it. I love to inspire the younger people in our business. Mm-hmm. I love to try and talk people out of coming into our business.
Right?
We have to. It's like,
it's not what you think.
Yeah. It's like, are you sure you want this? You know, because it's going to suck. It's
for
like,
a long time.
Yeah. Like, you know, it's like going to a boot camp class. Like, it looks good on paper mm-hmm. and on Instagram.
That's not how it feels.
But it kicks your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a long-winded process to reach success. And then by the time you're at a point where you reach success, your life has gotten more complex. Like for me, like, my trajectory in the first few years, I was building and building my success. And then I got married. Now I have 2 children. Now I'm trying to support a family. I am supporting a family in New York City. So that, like, your life and your expenses and everything else also catch up to your success. And then you have to go even harder in parallel to the busyness of life.
Again, it's never enough.
Yeah. Well, it's actually, I think it's always enough. Like, we're always given exactly what, what we need. We're right where we're supposed to be.
Right.
So if you put it into perspective that way, then I think, like, that also helps you accelerate you forward. Like, I've been stuck because of stress, stress of life. And I've really learned how to deal with that and battle that and use it as a force of energy. And I think it's so important because, again, it doesn't matter what your background is or who you are, you will go through a struggle to reach success in real estate. It will never just be handed to you. So I think that that's really interesting.
I feel like my first year was such a fluke, and then I had a few, really good years. But, I was 6 months in and I had 11 deals in contract. And
nice.
That's great.
That's
it's
awesome.
Great. It's awesome. It's all those things. But there's a lot of things you're not learning while that's happening.
It's true.
And so if I had to do it over again, I probably would have joined a really big team, and I probably would have just tried to soak up as much knowledge as I could and learn.
Totally.
And be around someone or several people that could just show me the way. But that just wasn't it. I did meet Jeff early on in the industry, and we were friends for probably about 6 months, and then we started dating. So I got to cheat, and I got to ask him all the questions I had. And early on he was just like, "You're gonna be great." He's like, "You're a pro," and I would.
That's good encouragement.
Yeah, I would get a lot of transaction information from him and how things work and what needed to happen next, and I immediately started helping him with, like, marketing, and so it was like our work and hanging out became the same time.
Love that.
And I always feel like I really helped to influence him in his marketing of himself, his own brand. And he absolutely taught me the intricacies of the transactions and the nuances of the deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great partnership.
I mean, it is. Even though it doesn't work, it is.
Works for you.
Exactly.
You might be afraid to admit it. I think you probably, I would guess that you preached this language for a long time.
I can't.
And then boom.
Yeah.
This is your life now.
Yeah.
You now are with a romantic partner in business, and you're succeeding.
No, and like 3
and you
times
didn't
a week.
think this was going to happen. You didn't think it was going to work,
I was like,
but you were wrong.
That doesn't work. This is the reason why. When you come home, you should download and they should download, and you support each other, and you have no idea
what
each other's day was like.
There's no formula. This isn't binary. You can't decide how a relationship or this type of thing's going to go. Like, you can't also, you can't control the chemistry that's between two people.
Yeah.
It's not within control. It's a force of nature.
But also too, Ariel, like 2 or 3 times a week, I'm like, thank God. You know what I mean? I don't know if he feels that way, but I feel that way and say it out loud often because I'm like, what would I have done? How would I have gotten out of this hole? You know? Like, and it'll just be like that one little thing. Or sometimes he'll just notice something that I didn't notice. And he's like, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but I wanted to just, and I'm like, wait, where was that? Like, it's just the smallest little things that he'll notice that I missed. And, or just sometimes where it's like, there's just too much to do. And to know that I can just say, hey, can you run and go do this? Like, I can say that about everything that you could possibly put on my calendar. Anything that is on my calendar, he can show up for.
That's so nice.
And do just as good, if not better.
That's such a boost of confidence to know you have that type of support system. It's
absolutely.
Amazing. It's a blessing.
I'm like, I can't go, but Jeff will be there. You're better off.
Jeff, you deal with the shit.
Yeah, like he'll be fine. And he's the same way with me. Like, our clients meet both of us initially, but
then you have one point of contact.
Yeah. And we built our businesses separately. Like I think I'm 8 years in, he's 9 years in, maybe 10 years in now. So, I look at it as our experience combined, but I feel that if I've done it, he's done it, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I also like the way that we have such completely different perspective on things. So he's going to bring another value that I just won't bring.
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring a value that he's not able to bring,
yeah.
you know?
And if you hire... They make it whole, you know, they synchronize.
You know, I always say you get a deal and a discount when you get both of us, because really we're both amazing. And I don't say that because it's ego. I say that because I know the work. I watch the work. I know how we do, and I know how we drag things to the finish line that probably would not get there any other way.
Well, you two balance each other out.
Absolutely. We're completely opposites. Yeah,
well, it's interesting. I don't even know that I would call it opposite as much as just different in synchronicity. Okay. Like I think, you know, that often we're told that marriage partnership is about compromise. Mm-hmm. But you can compromise certain things in life, like where you're going to live one day, or maybe where you'll send your kids to school, or what you'll have for dinner on Wednesday night. But when it comes to your values and your intentions, they have to be in synchronicity.
Right.
Like compromise is like this, but when you synchronize, you come together.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like, yes, you have opposing viewpoints or opposing ways of approaching certain situations, but in the end, together, you synchronize, you balance each other out. So I would say always lean into that. Mm-hmm. And continue to be great, because you guys really are. You could tell.
Thank you.
What's next for you? What can your audience expect from you over the course of the next year? Are we allowed to talk about that thing?
I don't know what we're allowed to talk about.
That thing that's happening sometime next month?
I'm just here. I don't know what we're allowed to talk about. I'm just like, I don't know how I got here. I'm just here. I guess what's next for me is... immediately next, I'm taking a break for 2 weeks.
Oh, where are you going?
Nowhere. Catching up on life.
I like that. Okay.
Absolutely nowhere. I mean, I might go like to a spa or something like that, but I'm going to catch up.
Both of you or just you?
Just me. I can't pull him away from work. Like I can negotiate it here and there, but it has to be well in advance. And it needs to be like about 3 or 4 days of arguing about it.
Just like buy him a ticket to Rome or something and just go.
If it was that easy, it would be done. But he doesn't want to take a break before the show comes out, but I'm going to take a break before the show comes out.
Yeah.
And
well, are you at all nervous about what it'll look like? Is there any anxiety?
There's anxiety about how it will be perceived.
Yes.
But I'm proud of what I've done on the show, and I'm proud of being able to put forward who I am and not creating.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm proud that I got to a space of feeling comfortable with the cameras around at all times. And, like, I'm proud of I'm proud of my contribution to the show. I'm proud of how hard I worked on it. I'm proud of how long I worked on it. And,
I'm excited to see it.
It's just going to be like, you know, how it's perceived. That there's a little anxiety there, but I think we have something special. I really do.
Well, you guys are my favorite characters. Oh. And I haven't even seen it yet.
You can't say that.
I feel like I can.
Well, you can't say it to anyone else if you say it to me then.
It's okay. I'm not saying it to anyone else.
But no, I think it's good. And from what I know and what I've participated in, I feel proud that it's like a true depiction of the nonsense that we deal with sometimes too, you know, because I feel like there's a lot of really great glamorous stuff to put out.
Yeah.
And it's good and it's really pretty and it is really glamorous. But there's also like a lot of headaches and stress and craziness too.
Nothing that shows the actual reality of the work.
Yeah, it's hard. Like the days are hard and they're hot and it's long and things fall apart all the time. It's like there are times where you're just literally always waiting for the other shoe to drop, you know, like in deals. And so I feel that for at least my contribution, that I was very honest about what was going on and showed the truth of what the work is, good and bad. So I feel good about that. And I think that I just think the world needs to see the real estate story from a New York perspective again. You know, like I always think that nothing is really done right until it's been done in New York.
I like that.
But I'm a New Yorker, so I'm supposed to think.
Yeah, well, especially for what we do, you know, like the best real estate professionals in the world get their training here. Yeah. This is like the breeding ground for real estate agents.
I just feel like, I feel like the world needs to see that. Like, I think the world needs to see us hustling, because like we're not just building our individual brands, we're also building this brand new brand, right?
Yeah.
And we're a part of that story. We're weaved into that as well.
Do you know the name yet?
No.
So
and even if I did, I would act like I didn't.
So you do. But I'm so curious what it's going to be.
What do you think it's going to be?
I don't know. Hopefully it's a good name.
I know it's not called Selling New York, because I see another Selling New York on Netflix. Is it Netflix or Prime? But it exists out there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I know that that's not it.
Well, I'm hopeful that whatever it is, it will only add to the betterment of our company and our brand as a whole.
I believe that it will, and I believe it'll be a success. I believe it's going to be an immense success. I've always felt that way, though, since the very first day we started shooting.
That's great.
Yeah, I just have a really weird feeling. A lot of things happened. A lot of crazy stuff happened, like during shooting, and just weird things. Like even the day we got greenlit, my car got stolen.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
came out of the meeting and my car was gone. I was like, oh, this is such an exciting time. Where's my car?
Where was the meeting? Where did it get stolen?
Right outside of your office.
What?
Right outside of your office in Soho. Yes, that's where my car got, right in front of the Trader Joe's.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, this has got to be a good sign, because I've never had my car stolen before. Yeah, I went to the meeting, and
that stuff only happens downtown.
Can you imagine like that high of a moment? Like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting! And I was like, oh, let's go. And so go to the car, and Jeff's like, you sure you parked here? I was like, I know exactly where I parked. He's like, do you think you got towed? I was like, nope, I do not think I got towed. I think my car is gone. Yeah. So I felt like that was the first good luck sign. And then there were a lot of other crazy
moments. Did you get the car back?
I did get the car back. Really? Yes. 3 days later, it was found.
Is it true what they say, that like a stolen car feels like it never drives the same
I didn't want her. I was like, I don't want this thing. I want to get rid of her.
Did you?
No, I didn't. I had to completely, because I had just gotten it. It was a brand new car. So I had them rebuild it. And I'm keeping it, and I don't care.
Where'd they find it?
On the side of the road in, Jersey.
And how'd they steal it?
So the Range Rovers are like some of the most stolen cars. And this period of time, 3 people I know with my exact car had their car stolen.
Really? They must have just had like some kind of special key or something.
They can I think it's called mirroring a key. So they can mirror a key. Like I have a cover on my key now that you can't mirror it. Yeah. But supposedly you can like pretty much walk up to someone's porch and like, I think it's called mirror or cloning the key, something like that. But they can clone the key. And then you have all these like apps and things on your phone. So I can see where my car is. I can see it moving. I can see it leaving New York City. And they take it through the tunnel. And it turns out, because we're in Soho, that's the highest area for cars being stolen, because you can literally get your car stolen. I'm calling NYPD. My car's in Jersey. It's 6 minutes later. So they see it coming through the Holland Tunnel. But I did get it back, and that I got it back because of my clients. Like I literally had a lunch the next day, and I wanted to cancel. And Jeff's like, no, you should go. And I was like, my car's gone. I don't want to go. I sit down and I tell my client about my car getting stolen. She's like, what? She's on the phone with like all these detectives in the mayor's office. And I mean, my clients are the best people in the world.
Love that.
So that's how I got my car back, is through my client.
That's cool.
Yeah. But that was the first sign of the show, and everything that went crazy with the show leading up to it, I was like, this is all good stuff. Because you don't end up with something like, you don't have all those crazy moments unless it's going to really
amount to something good.
So I've always had this like, and I don't know, maybe I'm the only person that feels this way, but I've always felt like this is going to be a banger. Like I've always felt that way.
I hope so.
It better be.
That'd be great. Yeah.
It better be. And, from that point on, I hope that I envision it really helping to grow every agent's business at this firm. I feel like our brand will be far more visible. And I think that through that effort of whatever, 20 or 40 people, I think everyone is going to be able to really catapult their business from it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's the responsibility I feel, at least.
Well, I'm excited to watch you guys.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time. I know how busy you are. But I appreciate it, and I wish you nothing but success.
Thank you.
Keep rocking, keep crushing it.
I appreciate that. Same to you.
Thank you.